Phil,
Yeah.
uh, maybe we need to stop talking about things that we want and things that would be ideal. Like the ideal time to be facing top teams in MLS, whether the
Mm.
Vancouver Whitecaps, the Seattle Sounders,
LAFC.
LAFC. We said it, and then look what literally happened to all of Central Texas as a result.
I don't think it
So
was as a result, but
look,
it's
I'm blaming us. I think that we're
okay.
cursed. I think that we're cursed. I think that we're cursed. I'm leaning into all of the ultra superstition that has been flying around of late because
Did you
we
did you get a monkey's paw?
no, I haven't checked my mail yet today, so there is an outside chance that maybe there is one out there. But thanks, Phil. Thanks for that. Now
Sure.
maybe one is just going to magically appear. So we wanted Austin to advance an Open Cup, and now look what
We
happened.
did. Mm.
Now look what happened, Phil.
I didn't think we'd have to sacrifice a knee in order to get to the semifinals. What's it
Yeah,
going to take to get to the finals? I shouldn't probably even
I
ask
do.
that question, should I?
Well, thanks, Phil. Now you've done it. Now you've done it.
Emergency podcast. Verde did a thing, so we gotta talk about it. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency. Emergency podcast. Shut up, oh yeah, shut up, oh yeah, shut up. Emergency podcast. It's an emergency.
Hey, a hearty hello to you all, and welcome to Emergency Podcast, the Austin FC podcast, where we talk about all the Austin FC emergencies. Clearly, big emergency, even though Austin has advanced in the U.S. Open Cup with Brandon Vasquez's knee. Of course, speedy recovery wishes for him as he prepares for surgery and then prepares for probably about 9 months of rehab. That's usually the general course of action. Of course, we've got some games coming up. We've got a game Saturday here at home against the Revolution. We've got a midweek game in Carson, and then we have, of course, All-Star Madness, and then we have a game against DC, which has a new coach. And we're going to talk about all this in a second. How are you doing? How have you fared this week?
I'm good. It's been a weird time. It's been a dark time in a lot of different
For sure.
respects. One of the best ways to respond to that for me is humor, and so I feel like you could look at it as very dark humor or just we live in very dark times, and very dark is just the normal setting, and
Mhm.
it's difficult to get darker than that. So
Yeah.
it's good that we have things to go along with. If we want to think about curses, Austin is the curse to other clubs whose coaches are imminently going to get fired. And we'll get into that
Right.
later.
That has happened before.
But here, a silver lining. Maybe one would say a bright blue silver lining. I've seen the new Superman movie. It's awesome. It's great. The politics of it are on par with the true heart of the character,
Okay.
someone who was formed by the environment in which he was raised, a stranger in a strange land called Earth, bright, optimistic, sarcastic, and cynical in different little bits and dribs and drabs, but overall optimistic and hopeful about the right side of history winning out. And that's something that I feel like we need now more than ever. So if you are feeling dark and dour and depressive about various things going on, soccer and otherwise, try out that new Superman movie. This is not a paid endorsement by Warner Brothers Discovery, I should mention.
Right. So you're saying Superman for 2025 is maybe what Barbie was for 2023.
I think that's actually a very good comparison. I think that is
Okay.
spot on.
Good, good. And we do want to mention, of course, when we recorded last Saturday, beginning to get the full understanding of what happened, of course, with the floods, and that unveiled itself over the course of the week. Of course, the very unusual cancellation of a match, but obviously some things more important than football. Our hearts go out to everybody who was affected. Texas Monthly has an amazing story by Aaron Parsley, a senior editor
Mm.
who was with his family in a house alongside the Guadalupe, which ended up going into the river. And it's harrowing and it's chilling, but it's also just an amazing tale of bravery and the perseverance of this family, and very emblematic of what people are going through. And if you do feel like you want to do something immediately, the D-Lot tailgate that we had mentioned last week, that is on for this Saturday. And I know that there are some groups that are helping out with the flood victims that you'll be able to donate there, and you'll be able to gather with people. And that's a good thing to do right now.
Yeah, the article that you mentioned, I saw that too, and it's a lot. Everything's a lot right now,
Mhm.
but people coming together and finding ways to contribute to things that are more important than football. That tailgate, Los Verdes, Austin Anthem, La Murga, everybody is welcome from 4 to 6 over near the train stop right there next to the stadium. There will be food, there will be drink, there will be opportunities to contribute to fundraising for various causes. And it's worth mentioning that, and this is in no way to diminish Kerrville specifically, but because so much of the spotlight has been on Kerrville, to take things back locally here to Austin for a moment, one of the things that's gotten brought up in various conversations has been that the Williamson County, the more Austin local side of things where flash flooding did affect local communities here, is something that has gotten lost a bit alongside the absolutely catastrophic multi-generational level issues that the Kerrville area is facing. Los Verdes is in the process of getting stuff together for contributing to 3 different causes that are serving different parts of the disaster. One of them Kerrville specifically, one of them more centered in Williamson County. If you keep an eye on the socials for Los Verdes ATX, they'll be posting stuff about that if they haven't already by the time of this recording.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Let's go ahead. We're going to transition and talk about some soccer. Wild, wild game on Tuesday.
Wild.
I had several different leads written for that story. I definitely thought that the team was going to lose at points in that match for a lot of that match, actually, but grit, determination, resilience, whatever you want to call it. Austin advances in the US Open Cup. Of course, 2-2 after extra time, 1-1 after regulation, and then Austin triumphs 4-2 in the penalty kick sequence. Brad Stuver saves 2 of those kicks. Austin makes all 4 of those, including an incredibly cheeky Panenka by Robert Taylor. Didn't know he had it in him, didn't know he had that sauce, but lo and behold, there he is. It was definitely one of my favorite PKs I've seen in a while, and Chicho Arango kind of lost his mind. Christian Espinoza kind of lost his mind. The Austin-San Jose rivalry, I think, is underrated. I do think that these teams definitely do not like each other, and I think that's been cultivated over the years. And I think that's just grown a little bit now. And they still have to face each other 2 times in the regular season this year, including on decision day.
Yeah. Decision day. I think you're dead on, Phil. This is one of the more underappreciated, like, real rivalries. The in-state rivalries or like regional rivalries, Cascadia, the multi-point California rivalry system that exists now, which, think about LAFC and San Diego as the new kids on that block. LAFC is still not that old of a club. Those are always going to be there, but they're the grudge match, get down dirty in the dirt kinds of matchups that Austin San Jose, that one just organically sprang up in season 1. In season 1, it was there from the founding of the club. It is part of the legend that has been built.
For sure. We've seen 4-3 contests go either way. We've seen a 3-3 draw. Of course, that was the Matt Bersano game, which was about as hot and swampy as an Austin SC game has ever been. I was in the stands for that one. It was absolutely disgusting. Yeah, it's fun. To me, I really do like this rivalry, but I do not like that turf. Do not like the attitudes of some of the San Jose players. Didn't really like Hodder Obrian going on socials, being left behind and appreciating a Chicho Arango goal on Instagram, which, as of this recording, I believe is still up. At least it was earlier.
He hasn't removed that. He hasn't removed that.
No.
It did get noticed on Reddit, for example. I want to talk about that bumpy old pitch. That pitch that nobody really likes. San Jose players don't have the best of times on it. The league's got to do something about that pitch. Lots and lots of people go to San Jose to get injured. There were certain surfaces that Driussi did not want to play on, Seattle being one of them, where he wanted his minutes conserved. And I think it's very reasonable for multi-million-dollar players to have that same concern about the San Jose pitch after what happened with Brendan Vasquez.
They don't go there to get injured. That's just a unfortunate.
They go there and getting injured is part of going there. Yeah. They don't go. I'm going to get on this plane and I'm going to come back with a nice old meniscus tear. There, at least. Right. The San Jose Ultras get real spicy, and everything that goes against them is unfair and unjust and illegal. And Chicho Arango is out there passing around very selectively taking screen grabs, not video in motion of things that he thinks should have been called in San Jose's favor, but very selectively taken things out of context. Yeah, it has all of the petty childishness. And one of the things that I liked about the resiliency of Austin in that match is that there were enough veteran guys who've been there year after year, Owen Wolff, Brad Stuver, that they not only know what playing against these guys is like, but playing against them as Austin. And you've got Chicho, who digs back into some of his LAFC stuff with the way that he feels about Austin, where a prominent member of the supporter community of Austin DM'd him and got him to respond. And he threw back in that supporter's face, "Oh, yeah, I beat you guys back in 2022. And it had all the energy of, yeah, I was quarterback of my high school football team. I used to be real hot. All the girls liked me. But
LAFC was 3 teams ago, dude. Like,
yeah, calm down, bud. Yeah. There's so much storied stuff built into that seeing the really feudal "you mad, bro" in the aftermath from Bruce Arena, from Chicho Arango, Christian Espinoza refusing treatment, refusing to be stretchered off, and making the gash in his leg worse, visibly. And I'm not recommending people watch an open wound, but if you look at it, he is literally working it further open, jostling over to the sideline. It just,
like, look how bad this is.
It's look at how bad this is. Oh my God, look, it's even worse. Yes, because you made it worse, dude. And literally they get to the sideline and Bruce Arena reprimands the trainer for, why didn't you put a bandage on it? And he was like, he wouldn't let me. And meanwhile, Christian is still whining and crying about it. And then there was the flop from Chicho where miraculously all it took was a yellow card and he was healed. And he went from whining and crying and moaning to being incredibly upset about the unjust charge leveled against him.
Right.
Boy, those.
And then apparently you can throw a ball and swear in the ref's general direction and not necessarily get a second yellow. We found that out. That's a thing we learned.
Yeah, those 2 more games against San Jose this season are definitely going to be interesting.
For sure. Yeah. Especially that last one, decision day,
Yeah.
which is going to be preceded, as we found out. We'll duck on this real quick. And then I had one thing that I wanted to say more about Open Cup before we go on to some of the other stuff. But we did find out that, speaking of ACLs, LAFC will be playing Austin now in Austin, the game that was supposed to happen last weekend. That's now going to be Sunday, October 12th, I believe, 5 p.m., just as the final headliners for Austin City Limits are beginning to go through the motions. You get the 4:30 or 5 p.m. act, you get like the 6:30, the 7 p.m. acts, you get like the 8:30 acts when everything is dark and it's really hard to navigate Zilker Park. So that is a little unfortunate. That's the weekend we're supposed to go. So I'm going to have to cut my ACL probably a little bit short, but I covered the game. That is duty calls. It's weird. Also, it's an international break. Boanga could be out, Izuni could be out. That's going to be a weird time to have that match again, especially we had talked about the relative ease of this last part of the season. One of the tougher games, of course, in the stretch was the LAFC game. We're supposed to get that in the Seattle game out of the way early, and now that's been pushed as the penultimate game. But of course, the international break is going to make everything a little bit funky in that direction. So we shall see. Yeah, so on Open Cup, this is going to come out as you're listening to this on Saturday morning, most likely. Jay Catanese from the Blazing Musket reached out to me and he had some questions. We did a 3 questions exchange. And one of the things he asked about was what I think the odds are now of Austin winning the Open Cup. And I went into Han Solo never tell me the odds mode, but also, again, Team of Destiny is a cliched thing, but if you are going 120 minutes, not scoring a goal from open play, you manage to tie a game twice when you were down, game that you, for big stretches of that, kind of had no business winning, and then you persevere in penalty kicks, this coming in the same Open Cup run where you're down 2-0 to a USL team, you get booed off the field at halftime, and then you come back in the 70th minute and you score 3 goals to take the lead in a very slim margin of time, as you all witnessed. You guys were there, I am sure. That to me speaks to maybe there is something to this Open Cup run. And again, we don't know what the regular season is going to pretend, particularly now with the leading goal scorer out, but 2 more games continuing this kind of magic, I do think it's conceivable. I was hoping that Chicago is going to persevere against Minnesota. Omar Gonzalez kind of ruined them by getting a red card in the middle of the first half, and you could just see Minnesota working that man advantage and just aggregating momentum until, of course, it manifested the goals that it did. But Austin has gotten a result already at Minnesota this year, so theoretically, they could gut that out. And then, of course, if they do win that game against Minnesota, they are hosting the final. Again, that New York Red Bulls Philadelphia game got rained out, postponed. So it's going to be one of them or Nashville, who is on quite a heater right now. They are 9-0-4 in their last 13 league matches. And they put 4 second half goals on DC United, which ended up getting their coach fired. So I want no part of Nashville right now. But
Yeah.
we shall see. But it's an interesting 2 games to think about, starting with September 16th or 17th, when that game at St. Paul is going to happen.
On that note, Phil, it very much felt like we were in a story meeting for building out the highlight reel of, in retrospect, what the Open Cup run ended up being. You look at having the last 2 knockout rounds be on the road, hard fought victories. It'll be a hard fought victory against the leading set piece team in the league, Minnesota, if they win against Minnesota. And to me, a final, I'm less interested. Like Nashville, I want no piece of, but that would be an interesting matchup. Red Bulls would be boring to me because Austin plays Red Bull frequently enough. For me, I want it to be Philadelphia. I want it to be Philly choking on a cup again. Philly choking on a cup and fulfilling that part of their destiny, and Austin fulfilling their "you doubted us" destiny. Has all the makings of it. To your point, it has all the makings of it. And there are people who did not like the ugliness of what the match was. And I get it. And could Austin have done better? Sure. Are there things they should have finished? Yes, absolutely. Was the refereeing weird on both ends? Yes, absolutely. I have a bit of a contrary view of the game in that in the slogging through it, it was very painful. But as we got those improbably crazy things happening later in the match, it was everything I love about Open Cup. And at the same time, what began as a bunch of ugly parts turned into something pretty beautiful for me. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't clean. There was nothing perfect about it. It was flawed and rough around the edges in every different way. And those goals were scored from PKs off of drawn fouls. But to quote the poet, Vin Diesel, winning is winning. Winning is winning.
Right. So yeah, that game to me really changed and became beautiful and interesting the moment that Owen Wolff went into the box, as we learned on Thursday, with the pure intention of drawing a foul to get a PK. And that is absolutely what he did. Azuni got to step up, confidently buried a PK. That was nice to see. He needed that. Of course, he had another moment of frustration in front of goal a few minutes before where thought he scored a goal, but he was offside. So you got typical Azuni face as a result of that. But then from that point on, when Azuni got that second PK to make the score 2-2, I think everybody pretty much know, okay, this is going to penalty kicks. And if it's going to penalty kicks, we have Brad Stuver, and that turns out to be a pretty good thing. Of course, Minnesota, you're going to get most likely all-star goalkeeper Brad Stuver against all-star goalkeeper Dane St. Clair, which will be an epic PK for the ages. And if that game does go to PKs, I'm really going to relish that. I think that could be like a keeper on keeper kind of situation. I could see that getting crazy and getting into that kind of stage of a PK shoot off. And I don't put it past them to draw after 120 minutes. I also could see Austin handily crashing out to Minnesota. I could see Austin getting lucky and eking out a win in regulation or extra time. There are all kinds of scenarios that are possible at this stage. Again, we didn't necessarily foretell what was going to happen in the San Jose match. Knew that it had the possibility to be crazy given the history that these teams had, but wow. Wow, wow, wow. I did not expect everything to happen as it did. I also did not expect to stay up past 1 a.m., but sometimes that's what happens when you do soccer journalism.
You
You
know,
have to stay up
so,
past 1 a.m.
sometimes that's just how it goes. And we
Yep.
still, as of this recording, don't know for sure whether it's going to be September 16th or 17th. That hasn't been confirmed by U.S. Soccer just yet. And this is in the late in the waning afternoon of Friday, July 11th, that we're saying this. It could be that the reschedule of the Red Bull Philadelphia match is part of what's going into it. And it's very much a toss up as to why we're still waiting until it comes through officially. Don't necessarily book your travel around specifically one of those days versus the other, because
Right.
you might find yourself having to then change them.
Spend a few days. The Twin Cities are lovely.
Yeah, why not?
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and let's talk some league stuff. So obviously the Revs come to town. Revs are not doing so well under Caleb Porter. We were talking about this kind of idea of Austin being coach killers. They've done it to one DC coach, Hernan Losada. They arguably have done it to Wayne Rooney as well. Technically, he got canned the game after the loss to Austin, but the loss to Austin was certainly, I think, something that was a big contributing factor in that.
Can I say this? The loss to Austin was the saliva on the back of the envelope fold
Ew.
that sealed
Ew.
his fate.
Okay.
I'm saying it was a nasty loss. It
Thank
was,
you for that.
yeah, you're very welcome.
So we are looking again at Caleb Porter led team that's having some struggles. Jake addressed that. I wondered, okay, is this going to be the game that kind of finally seals Caleb Porter's fate? He didn't necessarily think so, just because ownership, again, this is Robert Kraft ownership, tends to stick with their coaches, but it's looking real dire right now. You look at a form guide, you look at what the Revs are doing, it's not great. And then the Galaxy, who are continuing to struggle, although they have been doing a little bit better than they did the first 15 games of the season. How could they not? And then DC, which has a new Swiss head coach replacing Troy Lesesne, who, of course, was the USL coach that was elevated up into the MLS ranks and was arguably not working out with DC. And again, when you lose a game that you're leading 2-1 at halftime, 5-2 to crash out of the Open Cup, combined with what they've been doing in league play, that was, I think, enough for them to decide. We have seen enough of this. This seems like, of all the stretches this season, and again, monkey's paw, we're courting the curse, but this really does seem, and I know that we've said this before, we've both been individually guilty of being overly optimistic and talking about, oh, there's 6 points in this, there's 9 points in this, what have you. It would be really disappointing if they finish with less than 7 points out of this. And I think 9 is utterly attainable given the quality of these opponents.
I
Two
think
of them are on the road, but still, these are not good teams.
These are not good teams. These are eminently gettable points for a squad who, sure, Vasquez coming out means that a lot of things tactically are getting moved around and reworked and refigured. Different people having to step up in new and different ways than they have in the past. But these are winnable games. These are winnable games that lesser teams with lesser coaching staffs could pick up these 9 points. This is a time for Zuni to prove himself, and I think he very much can. He was offside, and that one goal would have ended the San Jose match before we got to the torture chamber portion of the no holds barred fight that it was. Stuff like that happens. And to me, it wasn't like he was miles offside. He was a hair offside, and the bigger problem would have been if he did not get himself into the right place at the right time, which has been often more of the problem, is he's not there to be connected to by service coming in or to be in the right place for where the ball is going. He is doing a much better job of the Wayne Gretzky skating where the puck is going to be kind of thing. And
Right.
I think that's something that's difficult to measure. I don't know that there's an X-based stat for it, but I am optimistic based on observable results that Uzuni is figuring things out. I think some time with his newborn really did make a difference. I think he's not there yet, but he is getting there. And I think that's important. It's also important that Robert Taylor is healthy again and scoring hilarious Panenkas and on the field in open play, doing some really creative, really interesting stuff. I think there's a lot to be optimistic about, not for the sake of hope, but because we are seeing things lock in, we are seeing better situational awareness happening on the field.
Yeah. And with Uzuni again, I mean, we saw him go off to Spain. We saw obviously him get a little bit of extra time to reconnect. That was all something that I think we felt that he needed. He got injured right after. So this was the first extended stretch that we've gotten to see him in action since that time. Lively, but again, obviously no goals from open play, but that was something that plagued the whole team. That wasn't necessarily just on him. The goal that he did score that was called back, again, a perfectly nice goal. It wasn't at least him mishitting a ball or misjudging a ball. It was just his timing was not necessarily there. So hopefully that comes a little bit. Hopefully we are seeing those signs. A quick quiz for you, though. Now with Brandon Vasquez out, who is the leading Austin FC goal scorer in league play of all the healthy upright players on the team?
Guilherme Biru?
Yep, with 2 goals.
There we go.
Everybody else who has scored as everybody else who has scored as a single goal. Yeah. So that's a problem. Right. So
sure
10 goals, of course, that have not been scored by Vasquez by other Austin FC players in 20 league matches so far. So it's a big absence. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm working on a piece right now that hopefully will be by the time that you were hearing this on Saturday morning, if not before. Yeah, it's concerning to me that we're at this place in the season. We're seeing this lack of scoring. We're seeing this kind of lack of offensive solutions. We don't know necessarily what the summer transfer window is going to bring, except we do have Nicky Bolocco in, but again, not necessarily the answer as a creator or a finisher, obviously, from the defensive midfield positions. Interested to see what Roto is going to do in the summer transfer window. And now, again, with Vasquez on the season-ending injury list, you can theoretically replace him with even a DP level player. There's, of course, salary considerations that come into play there. But if there is somebody who is looking to be active for, say, the first half of a European season and then come back with a little bit of mileage under his belt come January, this would be a really good time to find that player and say, why not?
An international player who is expected to play in the 2026 World Cup.
Right.
Who needs to have something to do the back half of this year.
Right.
Leading into potentially then getting put back into the European market in the winter window.
Right. Of course, if Kai Kamara hadn't been snapped up by Cincinnati, I would say, oh, maybe this is a job for Kai Kamara and maybe we'll see what he can do in 14 games. And just, again, to have Kai Kamara be part of the carousel of teams that he has been on. I don't know if you heard the last Moon Tower where they did the game where you have to bid and say how many teams you can name that a player has been on. For example, it's Kai Kamara, which was one of the picks. And I said, I can name 3 teams. Can you name 4? And if you can, I either have to challenge you on that or I have to say, yeah, I can name 5. Like he's got 13 teams, I think, that he's played for in his career. It's pretty spectacular.
I was aware that that game was played. I try to keep myself fresh and I don't listen to other podcasts contemporaneously. I time delay them so that I don't find myself throwing in talking points that are almost like responses to me having listened to Moon Tower earlier in the day.
Right.
But I loved what I heard about this game that they were playing because it resulted in us going back and forth of, wait a minute, Maxi Urruti and Kai Kamara have been on the same teams, but never at the same time. Right.
Right.
So to me, here's the place further I would go is what team will Maxi Urruti and Kai Kamara end up on before they both retire at the same time? Because it's got to happen somehow. Right.
Because you need 2 aging strikers on the same team. Absolutely.
Some team needs that because we both know that teams have done that in MLS very recently.
Josh Wolff, Sean Rubio era Austin seemed like that would have been the candidate for that.
Exactly.
Nope. All right, so let's see. So with Vasquez out, then the other kind of consideration we have to take in is who's going to replace him on the All-Star team. Of course, Estevez, when asked about this, was a little bit non-committal Tuesday night, given just kind of everything that he'd been through and the injury was still fresh and all that. It's a valid question. I think was SU asked that question, so
I did.
I think certainly good to kind of plant that seed. You have accused me of being in love with Sam Surridge because I keep mentioning him as an
I mean,
all-star replacement.
you've already pled guilty as charged. So, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
I
know that's
mean,
an accusation. It's been adjudicated, Phil.
I don't personally love his game per se, but he's playing on arguably the hottest team in MLS right now. Arguably the hottest team in MLS right now. He's got 16 goals. He has more goals than all of Austin FC
Yeah.
at this point. He's the golden boot leader. It would be silly at this point not to have him on. And again, you're replacing a center forward. You should really replace a center forward with another center forward. So to me, that seems like the really obvious answer there. But I know it's probably not going to be Chicho Arango.
It
There's
probably
a
not
case for him,
Chicho
but
Arango.
with Nico selecting, probably not after what happened on Tuesday.
Well, Phil, I'm going to say what the entire Austin fan base is screaming at their car stereos right now. Phil West, you traitor. How could you assert that Nico would not replace an Austin player with an Austin player? It's coach's choice, don't you know? It was
Sure. Who
coach's
though?
choice when Brandon went on the roster, but that was also in
Yeah.
concert with all the other choices. And so I initially asked
Was that entirely Nico's choice?
to an extent, but I'll get to that. But so I asked the question in the post game presser after the San Jose game, knowing that I wasn't going to get an answer, and in fact I did get a weary look from Nico once he clocked what I had actually asked, as our beloved friend, the Austin FC comms director, was trying to very quickly just wrap us up and get us past that because he definitely heard what I said and understood it. I know that is something that there are a variety of considerations that go into it, and the follow-up answer to that our friend Alex Sanabria from We're Austin got in the midweek presser just yesterday is that there are a lot of stakeholders involved. There are a lot of things that go into that kind of a decision. And, Brandon definitely needs to be replaced. But Nico said that every week they are doing a review of all the guys that are on the roster, looking at their match fitness, looking at whether they are definitely going to play or not. And so they are looking at if adjustments are going to be made, what are they going to be made to from that list of 40 names that you couldn't count unless you can count to 40 that were among the pool from which the replacements would be chosen. I think you're right that they will probably select another center forward. And Sam Surridge is the one that was roundly identified as the biggest snub in the Oscar nomination kind of parlance that people have been going with.
Scored twice in Open Cup, by the way.
I'll put it this way: like I would go out on a limb to say that if it somehow ended up being Owen Wolff, it would be really beautiful from the perspective of Owen applying for Philippine citizenship, which he is entitled to, with an eye to potentially play for the Philippines national team in the World Cup as a backup to playing on the U.S. men's national team for the World Cup. Him getting to play on the field next to Messi, that does put a certain amount of visibility on a player, any player that is on that roster.
Right.
There's a lot of fan hope out there that it'll be a replacement Austin player. And if it is going to be a replacement Austin player, Owen Wolff has been under-recognized as being as great of a player as he is because of the fact that he played under his dad as a head coach for as many years as he did. And I feel like there would be some karmic justice to him getting that all-star spot, because at the end of the day, it's an all-star game. It's not playing in a World Cup itself. If it just contributes more to, say, bitter fans from other fan bases complaining that their guy didn't get to play in it and Owen Wolff only got to play in it because his dad used to be the coach of Austin FC, which wouldn't be the reason that Owen Wolff would end up playing in it. He is an under-recognized rising talent. And to something that Roto said last season, one of the most talented players in the league, but it is difficult to push back on the more deserving based on the stats that they are putting up options from other teams across the league.
if you had like, I believe NBA's got like a freshman sophomore kind of game. So if you had something that was like an under 22 game, I think he'd be a shoo-in for that. I mean, I do think that he has had an incredible season this season. I do think he's
Put him in
making
the
the
skills
leap. You look at the
challenge.
eye test,
Put him in the
maybe
skills
in the skills
challenge.
challenge. But here's the thing. So you had just been commenting on Thursday that
Mm-hmm.
we're finally getting past questions about his dad, which of course some of us already raising my hand, you're raising your
Yeah.
hand. We've been far past that for a long time, but that kind of kept coming up with Josh being the coach about him being the coach's son. You know how you reactivate that? You put him on the same team with Greg Berhalter's son. And that immediately becomes a
Oh man.
storyline again, because they were, of course, they were coaches together in Columbus and
Yeah.
they effectively grew up together. And now you get them on the same team and you would have that whole like father-son narrative all over again.
Yeah.
So
You
don't do
make a
that.
good point.
Yeah.
And to pivot directly away from that dumb thing that we bring up because it's something that people bring up, not because we think it's a particularly interesting thing, but just because I that's one of the things I love about the two of us, Phil. We love dismissing that out of hand. Is that the conversation that Alex and I had with Owen yesterday in the media availability was great. He was so relaxed, so natural, so like game to have fun and jab back and forth. Honestly, my favorite media availability that I've seen him in, setting aside the bias of being involved in asking the questions. He is a talented player on the field. He has a really sharp mind that has been under recognized as a result of the dumb, easy, lazy complaints about nepotism and that sort of thing. He's
Right.
more than proven himself his own man this season under his own steam. And I
Yeah.
can't wait for people to see more of that. But yeah, like maybe he doesn't make the all-star roster, but make him an all-star roster supplemental who gets to play in the skills challenge. Let him show off during skills challenge.
With Owen yesterday from the press conference, he's finally allowing himself to be interesting. He's not
Yeah.
in that cordoned off getting answers from Kevin Costner wearily on the bus in Bull Durham. Right off the bat, you asked him about, were you trying to draw the PK? And he was like, sure was, basically. He was definitely more relaxed and more kind of forthcoming than I've heard him. We've seen that a little bit more from him this year. He is finally coming into his own and becoming a little bit more comfortable. And I think that just comes with confidence, right? So I think that becomes from this kind
Agreed.
of idea of, and Ilya has talked about this, that if you are going to talk to the media, you should, in essence, have something to say. You should be a factor in that game. And if you really weren't, then it's weird for you to be commenting on it. And of course, the goal is to be a factor in every game for a positive, right? So not a negative factor, but be a positive factor in every game that you play, right? So that you quote unquote earn that right to talk to the media, even though, you know, for some, it is more a chore. Something that you actually relish or consider to be a privilege.
It was nice that we closed on a note talking about what his future ambitions are. And he was a little bit more forthright. He repeated that I've said before, I want to go to Europe, but I'm here and I'm happy with what I'm doing here. And I want that arc of that Open Cup final and Open Cup victory as part of the arc of the beginning of the next arc of his career and where he goes from here. I want Ilya to rack up that third Open Cup. A stat that I want to track down is how many players have been on the most Open Cup winning teams. We know clubs that have won it the most number of times and that sort of thing. There's a really interesting note to Ilya potentially winning Open Cup with 3 different teams. That's a unique thing. It's an interesting thing. And his perspective on the competition is fascinating.
Yeah.
Various of these guys who have competed in it in the past, there's so much richness. I'm sorry, but these guys cannot lose this semifinal. They can't lose the final. I'm sorry to be the bearer of hard work news, but Austin has to win Open Cup because it'll be so disappointing if they don't. They can't let people down. Right. I'm just saying.
You had me thinking about a player who's won the most Open Cups. Given the times that he was on these teams coinciding with when they won Open Cups, I'm going to have to track this down, but I suspect Josh Wolff is pretty high on this list.
Oh, man. Wait, can we ever stop talking?
He was with SKC like during those cup winning years. So I think he might be in there.
I want to disprove it now, and I don't want us to use a large language model GPT to figure it out. I want to do it the old-fashioned way.
I'm going to do that.
Do we have any other primary topics to discuss, or can I drop the cool news that we've got coming up during All-Star. Speaking of All-Star.
Let's drop the cool news. Let's do that. Let's talk about the party.
So, Phil, we've got something fun to announce that in true Austin style is going to be laid back, kind of improvisational, come and go as you please, hang out and have a good time. Looking at the All-Star schedule, there's a lot of stuff happening Saturday. Monday night is the MLS Next All-Star game, the Academy All-Star game, which is important, is a whole thing. It'll be out at Palmer Field. But aside from that, there isn't any big thing happening Monday night. And so for a while, we had been building a plan to do something. And that something is going to be called Monday Night Live. And we're calling it Monday Night Live because we don't expect the league to be interested in cease and desisting something that doesn't use the words All-Star or Austin. And also because there will be some live recording of some podcasting with a bunch of out-of-town national-level pundits. What we are looking to do, since Media Day is earlier in the day, bring a variety of our friends, new and old, from across the MLS press corps up to Hop Squad, Austin's home base for game day activities, for something of an emergency happy hour, something of a just hang out deal. We're inviting all of the Austin SGs, officially recognized and not, all Austin fans, members of an SG or not, all visiting fans from across MLS fan bases, Liga MX fan bases. Everybody is welcome. People will be welcome to come and hang out and order drinks as of 5 o'clock at Hop Squad, where they are not usually open on Mondays, but they're opening for this. At about 7 or 7:30, we are expecting to record the first of a couple of different things. First one will be a bunch of our national visiting pundit types, and then we will have something specifically for Austin press as well. And we're just going to see how the night takes us. So from 5 to 10, Hop Squad's definitely going to be open. And depending on how the night goes, if things are still hopping at 10 o'clock, if y'all are still ordering drinks, Hop Squad will stay open. They're ready to hang. They've done this for many an impromptu watch party of sorts. So we'll have some live punditry going on, some takes being brought out of the oven hot like the hot dogs at Dough Squad, which will also be open on Monday night. Kramer's Cocktails will also be open, so you can get the good mezcal stuff. But just come ready to hang out and have a good time where you don't have a game to go get to. It'll be a great opportunity. We're hoping to coordinate with visiting SGs so that we can really make that the kind of Monday night happy hour that lasts all night.
Well, not all night. Some of us have to work.
Yeah. It lasts all night for those of us who can be a little bit more irresponsible or a little bit more hungover than normal on Tuesday. Monday Night Live, 5 to 10 for sure, maybe a little bit later depending on how things go. But just come ready to have a good time, and we'll get things started with the podcasting 7 or 7:30 or so. Our friends at We Are Austin TV are partnering with us on this. Otra por favor as well directly. And like we said, everybody from the Austin Press Corps is invited to come and hang out and just bring your hot takes. No bigger homework than have hot takes about the league. That's it.
Even lukewarm takes.
Lukewarm takes even. Piping warm.
No, I think it's going to be a good time. Yeah, we've been talking to some people behind the scenes and all that, and I believe it's just going to develop and coalesce over the coming days. Yeah, if you are interested in being a part of it, just let us know. If you see us around, just let us know that you'll be there. There's no official RSVP or anything like that, but it'll be good to just gauge things. But yeah, just show up. You don't have to announce ahead of time. It's just nice to know and gauge out there like how many of you are interested in doing something like this. One of the most fun things about All-Star is that you have people in from different parts of the country. For me, being able to see different media people that you read, you hear, you observe throughout the year. I consume a lot of MLS content. It's really nice to see the people behind the bylines and to be able to talk with them. And yeah, it's a great group of people. And then of course the SGs from all over who will be coming in.
Look, if we can get Andrew Wiebe, like we could sell photo ops, like people would pay to take their photo with Andrew Wiebe in his cowboy hat. No guarantees on Wiebe.
Oh, by the way, as I do sometimes, I was doing a bit of looking up stuff and I haven't had a chance to like entirely clarify anything, but I'm pretty sure based on the timelines that Josh Wolff was part of 3 US Open Cup winning teams. I believe he was on the 1998 Chicago Fire US Open Cup winning team, the 2000 Chicago Fire US winning team who beat the Miami Fusion to give you a sense of the history. And then 2004 with the then Kansas City Wizards, where he was actually instrumental in that game. He set up the set piece that led to the game's only goal. And then he retired at the end of 2012, but was an assistant coach under Ben Olsen, I believe, still in the 2013 season when DC United won it. So there you go.
I might actually have our answer from a simple search engine search. I didn't use a GPT. I didn't use an LLM. Billy Gonsalves.
What?
Won 8 U.S. Open Cups between 1930 and 1944.
Oh, that counts. Yeah.
That counts. I wish we had a supplementary podcast to just do a thing about who Billy Gonsalves was, because as I recall, he has a fascinating life story that has unfortunately been lost in the world of modern soccer. He was the Babe Ruth of American soccer. He had a 25-year career, this guy.
You should have saved that for more obscure US Open trivia.
Yeah, we'll roll it out at some point, and somebody will just forget, or they'll just reveal themselves for being an incredibly loyal listener to the podcast.
See if I was paying attention.
Got anything else, Phil?
Again, yeah, if you can make it out to the D lot Saturday afternoon for the tailgate, please do that. Keep your eyes out social media wise for anything that you can do to help post flood. I know a lot of people just want to have an outlet for what they're feeling still. So definitely look for those opportunities, but Saturday afternoon is a really good, easy way to do it and fold it into your Austin FC fandom as well. And then otherwise, just we'll be with you. We'll be riding through the week and then heading into obviously All-Star. By the time that we get together next Friday, we will know the outcome of 2 of those games, how the team is faring post Vasquez, and then maybe we have all the replacements on the All-Star roster at that point, and we can also maybe we'll also know who's going to be in the skills challenge, which I think is going to happen sometime this week. So we'll get to talk about all that as well.
Phil, onward to the League's Cup doldrums we go.
That is like the worst thing I've ever heard in the history of the 7 years that I've been on this planet.